February 2010, Andrew Koenig vanished in the biting cold of Vancouver. At 41, Stanley Park, where he once sought solace, became his grave, a rope around his neck, alone in the deep woods. He was Boner from Growing Pains, the smile that won over millions, son of Star Trek legend Walter Koenig. But that mask hid a desperate letter to his parents, a cry for help no one heard. A friend whispered. Andrew said someone was following him after that golden letter from the Myanmar protest. Why did he return to Vancouver? Fleeing the Boner nickname? His father's shadow? Or someone after his 2008 arrests? The old Star Trek tape he clutched, the vanished golden letter. What secrets did they hold? Join me as we uncover Andrew's journey, from the 80s spotlight to a mysterious darkness, to find answers for a shattered smile. Chapter 1. Chekhov shines. The boy breaks in the shadows. A close friend of Andrew Koenig once said, he mentioned something was watching him, not just fans' eyes. That whisper, quiet and haunting, seemed to stem from Andrew's childhood days, when Hollywood's glow was both a dream and a burden. It followed him through the years, until the day he hanged himself in Stanley Park, Vancouver, on a freezing winter day in 2010. To understand why, we must go back to his early days, when it all began. He was born in 1968, into a family at the heart of Hollywood. His father, Walter, was Pavel Chekhov, the young officer on the Enterprise in Star Trek, an idol to millions. His mother, Judy, was an actress, making their home buzz with set life. Picture Andrew, a wide-eyed boy, standing backstage, clutching an old Star Trek tape, hearing fans cheer his dad's name, wondering, who am I in all this? The pressure came early, like golden sun slanting across Sunset Boulevard. Andrew, 9 years old, huddled at a comic convention where his dad signed autographs for a frenzied crowd. Fans pushed and shouted, but no one noticed him. He grew up with privileges, audition chances, industry ties, but every glance whispered, there's Chekhov's son. That sensitive boy, who inspired writer Harlan Ellison to pen the short story Jeff D is 5 with his sweetness, deeply felt the unspoken comparisons. A friend recalled, at a Hollywood party, when a director joked about a new Chekhov, Andrew's face flushed red. He tore up a notebook, then quietly walked out, the Star Trek tape still in his pocket. That flash of anger passed, but did it plant the seed for the pain that led to his death? Both light and darkness wove through Andrew's childhood. He saw glamorous parties, lively sci-fi conventions, but also heard whispers about Nepo kids. Walter, a devoted father, tried to shield him, but Star Trek's glow was too vast, like a wall he couldn't climb. Judy, gentle, always drew him close, but couldn't erase the sense of scrutiny. At a fan event, Andrew, still holding the old tape, whispered to a friend, I feel watched, not just by the crowd. A joke or an overlooked plea. Those words, like a tangled tape reel, hung there, making us wonder what he carried to the end. By his teens, Andrew turned to acting, not just for family, but because he loved storytelling. At 5, he giggled in an uncredited role on Adam 12, eyes lighting up for the camera. But later auditions carried the question, can you match your dad? Hollywood's pressure mixed with his inner sensitivity, feeling every joy in performing, every sting in comparison. The old Star Trek tape, always in his pocket, was a keepsake, but also a reminder of the shadow he couldn't escape, a shadow that seemed to follow him right to Stanley Park. Andrew's sense of being watched and that old Star Trek tape, were they just the weight of fame or hiding a secret that led to his death? Chapter 2. Success with Boner, pushing Andrew into tragedy. Under Star Trek's shadow, Andrew Koenig stepped into a new light, but it brought another mask. In 1985, at 17, he joined Growing Pains as Boner, a role that made America laugh, but slowly silenced him. The sitcom was a warm embrace about the Seaver family, with Kirk Cameron as Mike, the charming troublemaker. Andrew's Boner was Mike's lanky, lovable best friend, always delivering goofy lines. Picture the set: a fake kitchen filled with laughter, Andrew tossing out a quip, the whole crew cracking up. Over 25 episodes, he became an 80s icon, his goofy grin etched in viewers' hearts. But in his pocket, the old Star Trek tape lingered, a reminder he was more than Boner. He was Chekhov's son. What secret emerged? Andrew's deep unease as Boner turned from joy to burden. The 1980s were sitcoms' golden age. The Cosby Show, Family Ties, and Growing Pains topped them. Boner's role was small, but iconic. Fans loved his loyalty to Mike, his awkward charm. He worked hard, memorizing lines in a trailer cluttered with coffee cups and papers. But Boner, meant for clumsiness, became a wound. By the 1990s, the word took on vulgar meanings, and strangers yelled "Boner" on the street. At his small desk in a rented apartment, Andrew kept a black notebook, writing in it after each taunt, like logging unseen pain. A friend said he wrote, but never showed anyone that notebook. Did those lines reveal the mindset that led to his end? Andrew's talent went beyond comedy. He voiced G.I. Joe, appeared on 21 Jump Street, and in 2003, played the Joker in the short film Batman: Dead End. As Joker, he laughed, but his eyes were cold. Not Boner's laugh, but one from someone tired of masks. Fans called it the best Joker, but Hollywood still saw Boner. He hated that name, a former colleague shared. It was like a mask he couldn't remove. In 1989, Growing Pains wrote Boner out, joining the Marines in a tearful double episode. At 21, Andrew lost his biggest role, facing a life crossroads, the black notebook still full of unread pages. He tried new paths. He did improv comedy at the Improv with Charles Whitman Riley and friends, making audiences roar with his quick wit. But each time someone yelled Boner from the seats, he froze, his smile fading. The old Star Trek tape stayed in his pocket, a memento, but also a reminder of roles he didn't choose. A podcast coworker said, Andrew wanted to be seen for his work, not a past name. But Hollywood doesn't easily let go. The Boner role, like Joker's mask, clung tight, hiding his true self. Was the name Boner a cage, or the sentence Hollywood stamped on his forehead from day one? Chapter 3. Promise of freedom and danger behind it. Andrew left Hollywood, carrying no scripts, just an old camera, and faith that truth could change the world. But truth could also make him followed. In his 20s, he moved to Venice Beach, an artist and activist haven, where ocean waves and salty air promised a fresh start. He wanted to escape his father's Star Trek shadow and Growing Pains' Boner mask. But what secret was shown? Andrew's inner conflict between freedom's craving and invisible risks closing in. Picture him in a small room, the old camera beside the ancient Star Trek tape, eyes pondering who he wanted to be. In Venice, Andrew found passion in art. He directed and edited shorts like Good Boy, 2003, and Instinct vs. Reason, 2004, meticulously cutting frames in a dimly lit room. As video producer for the podcast Never Not Funny, 2006 to 2010, he brought humor and heart. earning fans' praise. Andrew made everything come alive. But art couldn't fill the void. The black notebook from Growing Pains days, where he noted pain from boner calls, stayed on his desk, now adding lines on loneliness. He was building himself, but each step felt heavier. Andrew's greatest passion was social activism. In the 2000s, he dove into human rights, fighting for Myanmar's people under a brutal military regime. In 2008, at the Rose Parade in Pasadena, he held a China-Free Burma sign outside the Chinese consulate, despite risks. Police arrested him, but he stood firm. He wasn't afraid, a friend said. But after the arrest, someone saw Andrew receive a double-folded letter on golden paper, which he didn't open in front of anyone. That letter vanished days later, leaving questions. Did it tie to his childhood being followed feeling? That risk, like the sea waves out there, was silent but rising. Andrew's life in Venice was oddly quiet. No girlfriend, no scandals, no angry tweets. He just biked salty streets, edited videos, and avoided industry parties. A silence easily overlooked or deliberate. He seemed to want to fade, an acquaintance said. Walter and Judy, his parents, supported his ideals, but worried. Walter, busy with Star Trek, saw him less. Judy called, but Andrew's replies were brief, distant. The old camera and Star Trek tapes stayed with him, like pieces he couldn't release. Ideals can save a person, but they can also burn him. Were the things Andrew fought for the very things he couldn't take with him in the end? Chapter 4. Silent battle behind the image of success. People say the Venice light in winter is beautiful, but in Andrew Koenig's room, it didn't pierce the curtains. By his 30s, his life seemed full. Directing shorts, producing podcasts, fighting for human rights. But inside, a storm grew, pulling him into unseen darkness. What secret emerged? Andrew's quiet breakdown as he began erasing himself. Picture him in his small Venice Beach apartment, the old camera from post-Hollywood days beside the ancient Star Trek tape, eyes blank, staring at a curtained window. The black notebook, where he once noted boner pain, stayed on the desk, now filled with unread lines. Depression had trailed Andrew since his teens, like a hidden companion he tried to conceal. In Venice, it became a heavy shadow. He withdrew from friends, skipping dinners, passing on new projects. He was in a bad place, friend Lance Micchio recalled. A year before his death, Andrew stopped antidepressants, believing he could handle it alone. But Hollywood offered no help. His shorts like Woman in a Green Dress got little notice. Strangers still called him Boner, even at 40, reopening old wounds. An acquaintance said, Andrew said he feared losing himself in the past. That fear, like light blocked from the room, sank him deeper. The entertainment world forgot him, chasing new stars. His father Walter's Star Trek shadow loomed larger than ever. Some speculated the Growing Pains environment, where figures like Brian Peck later faced child-related convictions, left psychological scars. No proof Andrew was abused, but suspicions about what he witnessed on set made him more distant. He laughed in improv shows, but alone, he spiraled into self-doubt. I'm not that goof on TV, he told a podcast colleague. But who would listen when the world only remembered Boner? In 2009, Andrew started erasing his presence. He held a garage sale in Venice, giving away clothes, books, and furniture. A neighbor remembered Andrew didn't sell photos. He burned them. Growing Pains, set shots, father-son pictures, cast mates. He burned things that made people remember his name, they said. That act, like erasing an old film, chilled everyone. Walter and Judy sensed the distance. They called, but Andrew's voice was flat from an unreachable place. He left the old camera and Star Trek tape in the apartment, as if not planning more scenes. The black notebook stayed on the desk. No one knows the last page, just that he didn't take it. The question was fearing losing himself, Andrew's cry for help, or a sign he'd chosen a path with no return. Chapter 5. Mysterious Final Days in Vancouver. Vancouver in February, skies heavy gray, but Stanley Park still echoed with children's laughter. Andrew Koenig returned to the city he once called home, but this time without his smile. At 41, in 2010, he flew there, where he'd lived in the 1990s, to see the Winter Olympics and visit friends. But something was off, like he'd left Venice Beach seeking a final place. What secret showed? Andrew's absolute loneliness, leaving quiet traces, like wanting to erase himself from the world. Picture him walking Stanley Park trails, coat wrapped tight, the black notebook from Growing Pains, days not in his pocket, just the old camera left in his apartment. Andrew grew more withdrawn. On February 14th, a bakery worker saw him, looking distant, like not really there. Friends invited him to dinner, but he declined, preferring solo walks under wet trees. Back in Venice earlier, he'd cleared his apartment, paid final rent, and left a simple plastic bag at friend Lance Michio's door. Inside was the old Star Trek tape, a few dog-eared notebooks, and a broken-faced watch. No note, no clue who it was for. It was strange, Michio said, like Andrew was severing ties. An acquaintance spotted him near Stanley Park, wandering, holding a crumpled paper. The golden letter from the 2008 arrests had vanished, but this scrap, what was it? A farewell or just trash? On February 16th, Andrew sent his parents a letter. Tone desperate, Walter later said. He missed his flight home, phone and bank account silent. Walter and Judy panicked. Walter flew to Vancouver, pleading on camera. Andrew, call. We just want you safe. Sarah Silverman and Kirk Cameron appealed on Twitter, but Andrew sank into his own silence. Stanley Park, once his peace spot, now hid him. The old camera that captured art dreams stayed off. The Star Trek tape, like a childhood memento, sat in his bag, a final whisper of who he was. The bag, the crumpled paper, the empty room. They said nothing, but left echoes, like Andrew hadn't left, just waited for understanding. Chapter 6. Death and Unsolved Mysteries. Under Stanley Park's wet canopy, Andrew Koenig's body swung quietly. Leaves hid him from the world for 11 days. When friends found him, just 30 meters off the trail, his scarf fluttered lightly in the wind. No one cried then, just an unfillable silence. On February 25th, 2010, the tragedy ended. Andrew, 41, had hanged himself, closing a heartbreaking search. Walter Koenig, beside wife Judy, voice trembling on camera. Our son was in great pain. What secret emerged? Andrew's death wasn't just depression, but unsolved clues. What he left, and what vanished. Family and friends scoured Vancouver, focusing on beloved Stanley Park. Sarah Silverman and Kirk Cameron urged the public, but no calls came. The bag he carried was gone. Police found no crumpled paper in his hand. The golden letter from the 2008 arrest, no one kept. Like his final things dissolved in sea wind. Some guess the Rose Parade arrest led to threats from some force, but no proof. A friend said, Andrew said he feared something before disappearing. Those words, like the old Star Trek tape, replayed unclear. Andrew's death shed light on invisible pressures, the Boner nickname, his father's Star Trek shadow, untreated depression. He chose Stanley Park, his old solace, to end, like merging into eternal quiet. The black notebook, holding his pain, wasn't found. An acquaintance said, Andrew once said he wanted silence forever. Were those words a clue, or just a broken heart's echo? His death, like a scene no one wanted to film, left unanswered questions. Was it just a shattered heart, or a man's final voice who saw something he dared not tell? Conclusion: legacy and open questions. Andrew Koenig was a tale of light and shadow. From the boy under Star Trek's shadow, he became beloved Boner in Growing Pains, then forged his path through art and human rights fights. But depression, fame's pressure, and an inescapable nickname drew him into darkness. His death in Stanley Park in 2010 at 41 left a void and quiet clues. The black notebook, the Star Trek tape, and the unread letter. 3 fragments left after Andrew. No one knows their message, but they're there, like evidence of a man who tried to speak. Andrew's legacy outshines Boner. His father, Walter, turned grief to action, urging mental health awareness. If you think no one cares, find that person. His words saved lives, as one fan shared. Andrew made me seek help when I needed it. His activism, protesting Myanmar's regime, living vegan, inspired rights movements. He was more than a child actor. He stood for what's right. The 1980s to 2010 shaped him. Sitcom culture demanded smiles, but mental health stigma forced silence. He fought to be himself, not Walter's son or Boner. The clues Andrew left, the desperate letter, wordless bag, crumpled paper, make us wonder, what secret did he take? Some believe activism brought danger, but no evidence. Or did depression win? Picture Andrew in Stanley Park, seeking the quiet he craved. Could we have helped? His story reminds, spot depression signs, isolation, giving away belongings, and see the person behind the glow. He was an artist, activist, a man with joys and pains. His legacy is compassion, a lesson that everyone deserves love. We may never know. But when someone goes silent, leaving fragments, no one understands. Listen closely. They might be saying their last thing, the only way they know.